Following video is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my subscribers, this is the TFN Geek. I apologize, it's been a long time since I did my previous review. Life got in the way, and the temperature's also been very hot around here, and so, long story short, a lot of reasons that are too personal for me to go into have kept me from making reviews for the last week. But tonight we are finally going to get back into reviewing, and we are going to take a look. In this episode, this review is part 1 of a 7-part review of my most recent large-sized Transform addition to my Transformers collection. Those of you who watch my channel, I know the largest and most expensive Transformers figure that I added to my collection earlier this year was the Transformers Generations Titan Class Metroplex figure, and for my birthday last month in July, I finally purchased my second most expensive Transformers figure after Metroplex X, which is now, since Metroplex is an Autobot, this figure we are going to look at now holds the title of being the most expensive Decepticon I've added to my Transformers collection, and it is the Combiner Piranacon, the combined form of the Seacons. So for part 1, we're going to take a look at the team leader of the Seacons who combines into Piranacon. This is the Transformers Generation Selects Takara Tomy exclusive Voyager class Turtler, or Snaptrap, as he was named by Hasbro. So here he is, and with all of his accessory pieces attached to him, and because these are Takara Tomy exclusives, there's no stickers here. All the detailing on the Seacons, it's all paint. And Takara Tomy decided to go out of the way with the Seacons and Piranacon by armoring them up as much as possible with as many weapons accessory pieces as they could cram into all these figures. And here on this figure, these two pieces right here that form chest armor for Piranacon in combined mode, those are chrome paint. It's not just silver, so that's nice to see there. I can't remember the last Transformers figure, even amongst the Takara Tomy exclusives, that had chrome parts to it, so that's nice to see here on this figure. Now, history lesson on the Seacons. The Seacons were Piranacon. They were the last Combiner team Transformers to be released in the Transformers Generation 1 line. Well, more specifically, they were the last type of Combiner that has over the years come to be known as a Scramble City Gestalt. Scramble City Gestalts got their name because in a cartoon video that was exclusively released in Japan, which was meant to lead up to the Transformers Generation 1 movie, which did not air until sometime after it had been released in the United States. It was sometime later that it was finally released in Japan. But Scramble City, was this cartoon video that also, in addition to the movie, it led into Season 3 of the Transformers G1 cartoon series, and that remains the only piece of animation in the entire Transformers Generation 1 franchise, and I believe it's one of only 2 moments in the Transformers franchise where the combiners known as Gestalts or Gestalts, however you pronounce it, Scramble City was the name of the video where the only time that was shown where these combiners had the main gimmick of being able to change limbs, not only the same limb bots going from transforming into arms and legs, but also being able to switch between combiners, and that's surprisingly finally within Transformers fiction, even though the Scramble City Gestalt combiners having interchangeable limbs was the main gimmick that they were designed to possess. Within Transformers fiction, it's a rarity to see that happen, and here in the United States, apart from the Scramble City cartoon is what I was trying to say, the only other time we see limbs being used by different combiners, apart from the Scramble City cartoon, was in an episode of Transformers Energon, where the Autobot combiner Torsobot of Jetstorm, he combined into Superion Maximus by combining with the Energon Constructicons, but that's neither here or there. So, bringing focus back here, so Piranacon, the Seacons were the last Scramble City Gestalt Combiner in G1. I apologize for repeating myself. And unlike the other Scramble City Gestalt Combiners released in previous years in 1985 and 1986, the Seacons were released in 1988, the year after the G1 cartoon series ended in the United States, and unlike the previous combiners like them, the Seacons did not have an Autobot rival combiner acting as an arch enemy for them, and unlike the previously released combiners, when Menasor was released, the Stunticons had the Aerobots / Superion for a rival. Bruticus had for a rival Defensor, or the Combaticons versus the Protectobots. And even in the 1986 lineup, you had the Terracons / Abominus had their arch rival with Computron / the Technobots. Now, another thing that made the Seacons unique compared to the other Scramble City Gestalts was that they had up to 6 team members instead of 5, and Takara Tomy only came up with the idea of having a 6th Seacon who transformed into basically a target master for Piranacon to yield. So we will look at that in the Part 7 review when we look at Piranacon in combined form. So, another interesting thing about the Seacons, one of their legacies, and yes, that is a pun intended on the recently released Transformers Legacy line, the Seacons, during the final years of the Transformers Generation 1 franchise, Hasbro and Takara Tomy treated Transformers characters completely differently, and one thing that happened was some of the Transformers characters, Hasbro and Takara Tomy gave them completely different names, and the Seacons are one example of Generation 1 Transformers characters being given completely different names by both Hasbro and Takara Tomy. Even the combined form of the Seacons, Piranacon was Hasbro's name for the combiner, but here in the Generation Selects line, and just like in the G1 figures, Takara Tomy gave the Seacons combined form the name King Poseidon. Takara Tomy apparently decided it was cooler to give the Seacons combined form a name referencing the Greek god of the sea, along with a form of power, which is why the word king is part of the combiner's name. Hasbro decided it would be cooler to give the Seacons combined form a name based off of the flesh-eating fish of the piranha. Over the years, Transformers fans and collectors, it's been left up to their own personal preference if they prefer the Takara Tomy or the Hasbro names for the Seacons, and counting Piranacon as a separate character from the Seacons that combined to form him. Out of the 6 Seacons, including Piranacon himself, so technically 7, only 2 of the Seacons had the same names by both Hasbro and Takara Tomy. So the team leader of the Seacons here, Takara Tomy named him Turtler, and because the Generation Selects these modern-day figures of the Seacons are Takara Tomy exclusives, they are known on their boxes and on the instruction sheets. They're known by their Japanese names. So officially, this guy's name is Turtler, but if you want to call him by his Hasbro name of Snaptrap, you have the freedom to do so. So I will mention the Takara Tomy names of all the Seacons, but I will refer to them by their Hasbro names for the sake of these reviews. So this guy shall henceforth be known by his Hasbro name of Snaptrap. And so as I said, Snaptrap is the team leader. He combines into Piranacon's torso. And here in his beast mode, you can open up his mouth, and this is why I've always liked Takara Tomy exclusive figures, because they go all out with the paint job on their Transformers figures. So Snaptrap, his eyes are painted yellow, his teeth are painted silver, and inside his mouth, nothing on the inside of his upper jaw, but on his lower jaw, the tissue on the inside of his cheeks is painted black, and then he has his tongue painted red, so that's nice to see there. And yes, that is a tiny slot that Titan Masters and Prime Masters can sit in, so you can make it look like he's eating someone if you desire. And because Snaptrap is twice the size of all the other Seacons, as far as him being a robotic version of a real-life species of turtle, because he has claws on all four of his legs and he doesn't have flippers like a sea turtle does, because of his enormous size, I have always believed that Snaptrap is supposed to be a Galapagos tortoise due to how much larger he is in size. It makes sense, and seeing how he has legs for that, but because the Seacons, they aren't necessarily real-life sea creatures, they're actually similar to Abominus and the Terracons, which the Seacons here are retooled from. Snaptrap here is a retool of the Power of the Primes Voyager class Hun-Gurrr figure. And so one could argue that just like the Terracons who form Abominus, the Seacons, who combine into Piranacon, their beast modes aren't necessarily real-life animals, but they're rather monstrous animals. So one could argue that Snaptrap, instead of a Galapagos tortoise, that he's supposed to be a sea turtle that has legs like a tortoise instead of flippers. But I personally like to think of him as being a Galapagos tortoise. So here in beast mode, in turtle mode, Snaptrap, his head can move up and down. It can't look side to side. His jaw can open up that much. He does technically have some joints here on his front limbs, but if you try and move them too far forward on the shoulder joint, there's tiny little pegs holding the front legs in place. So if you try to move them in any direction at the wrong angle, then it will mess him up a bit. And even though he has ball joints here on these lower legs, because there is only a hairline of clearance, if you try and move the leg outward that far, it doesn't really work. So pretty much the only articulation Snaptrap has in his front legs is they can go forward that far and they can go back that far. Or compared to when you have him in a normal stance. So not much articulation there, and then most of the articulation here is in the back legs that can go up and down that far, so you can make it look like he's swimming a bit through the water. But yeah, that's pretty much it. He does have the potential to have a lot of joints in turtle mode, but they're hindered by the stiffness of some joints, and some of the joints being ratchet joints. So overall, out of all of the Seacons, Snaptrap is the one whose articulation is limited the most when he's in his beast mode. So as I said, he's all armored up with all of his accessory pieces. You've got the combiner feet for Piranacon that double as twin barrel cannons. You've got the laser gun for Snaptrap, which also become the laser gun for Piranacon. And a bit of trivia here. This laser gun is actually modeled slightly on the laser gun that Generation 1 Abominus came with instead of the one that G1 Piranacon came with. And I think that's a nice shout out of Takara Tomy to say that the Seacons are retools of the Terracons who were released in the Power of the Primes line. The Seacons were released 2 years ago in 2020 during the height of the COVID pandemic, and because they are Takara Tomy exclusives, when they were released in the United States, what happened was they were not released by Hasbro. Rather, Hasbro imported the figures from Japan, and that's why the original retail price tag for Snaptrap, when he was released by Hasbro on their exclusive website, Hasbro Pulse, he had a retail price tag of $65 originally. So yeah, the Seacons, they are in fact Takara Tomy exclusives, and they are not Hasbro released figures. Hasbro just ordered them from Takara Tomy, so that's why they are arguably Piranacon is the most expensive combiner transformer that's ever been released. And then you've also got these two cannons right here. Here on Snaptrap, they form Piranacon's back cannons, and then here on Snaptrap's underside, you've got his sword. Snaptrap's sword is what I'm trying to get out of my mouth. My mind's working faster than my tongue, so that's why I keep stumbling on the words I'm saying, but Snaptrap's sword forms part of Piranacon's main weapon of choice, which is a trident weapon that's made by all of the blade weapons that the Seacons come packaged with. And then, of course, you got Piranacon's chest, which doubles as a shield for Snaptrap when he's in robot mode. So, removing these cannons apart and taking the sword off as well. Also, here is Snaptrap in his turtle mode, but these are not all the accessory pieces that you can remove. You can remove the chest armor for Piranacon, and there's a close-up of those chrome chest blades that Piranacon wields. And then the cannons are removable as well. But officially, from going on the product photos, I've seen the chest armor and these two cannons. They're meant to act as parts of Snaptrap's turtle shell. But they are, even though they're parts of his shell, they are accessory pieces nonetheless. So, taking all those aside, here is the base figure of Snaptrap with all of his accessory pieces removed. And yeah, even without the accessory pieces, he is still a pretty decent sized Voyager class Transformers figure. I apologize, I'm not going to do any size comparisons to try and keep the reviews as short as possible, and we're already over the 16-minute mark, so Snaptrap's review has already gone on much longer than I wanted on it. But if you have the Power of the Primes, if you have the Terracons who combine into Abominus, then the Seacons, transforming them isn't that much of a difference, even though Snaptrap is a turtle and Hun-Gurrr is a two-headed dragon. Transforming these figures isn't that far off the Seacons. They aren't far off of a transformation from the Terracons. So, getting this part out, flip that up there. Clip that into place. Missed it. Alright, and I'm sorry, it's easier if I turn the camera off when I do the transformation off camera, so I will be right back, and we will look at Snaptrap in his robot mode. Alright, and here is Snaptrap transformed into his robot mode. He is very similar in appearance to his original Generation 1 action figure, but of course he has a lot more articulated joints with how Transformers action figure technology has advanced from 1988 to 2020, when the G1 figures were released, compared to the new Generation Selects figures. And again, and I apologize for repeating myself, but Snaptrap is mold mates with Power of the Primes Hun-Gurrr, so the legs are despite having some retooled extensions, the combiner pegs are the same size and shape. The arms, I believe, are the exact same on Snaptrap and Hun-Gurrr. Unfortunately, my copies of the Power of the Primes Terracons are out of reach, so I apologize for not doing any size comparisons of any of the Seacons with their original mold-mate figures. But yeah, Snaptrap, he does have some pretty decent articulation. His head is on a ball joint, so it can rotate left and right 360 degrees. Can look up and down ever so slightly. One minor gripe that I have with Snaptrap is that due to his chest armor forming from the turtle head and the front legs, his head looks like it's slightly farther back in his on his chest, even though his head does line up with his shoulders. So it is a bit of a disappointment. I mean, that you get that optical illusion with his chest armor. The shoulder joints are on ratchets, and they're very loud and very clickety ratchet joints. Shoulder joints are on ratchet joints as well, so the arms can basically rotate 360 degrees forwards and backwards. But again, those ratchets are very loud clicks. Next, swivel joints in the bicep, hinged elbows. Technically, there is no wrist articulation, but you can have his hand pointing upwards like that. But that's mainly a transformation joint, since Snaptrap's robot mode arms form Piranacon's thighs. Alright, and then of course, just like Hun-Gurrr, you've got the claws dangling off of his lower arms. No waist articulation due to how the figure transforms into Piranacon's torso, but you got universal joints in the hips, so the legs on Snaptrap can go forward that far. They can go backwards this far. The legs can go outwards this far, so Snaptrap can do a full splits. Swivel joints in the thighs. You actually have a double hinge joints in his knees, but that's mainly due to the transformation joint to combined form. And the toes, they are on swivel joints that look like ratchet joints, but they're actually swivel joints. And then right at the ankle, the toes are actually attached on ball joints. So basically what happens with Snaptrap's feet is that you're supposed to angle them down like this and then have the weight of the entire figure being supported on these little ball joints right here that are actually on the toes and they aren't at the center of the foot. But doing that causes the foot to compress up like that instead of being down here at the angle it's supposed to. So this is one of the main problems, not only for all 6 of the Seacons, but for Piranacon when he's in combined mode. Unfortunately, the designers at Takara Tomy, when designing the ratchet joints and swivel joints for the Seacons, the joints don't have that great of a tolerance to supporting weight, and so even though I'm holding him up in the air, I'm just resting him on my fingers like that with no effort. Snaptrap's toes ended up being like here at completely different angles and going in different directions. So unfortunately, the joints designed to support weight don't really work that much, and so all of the Seacons, including Piranacon, they are all floppity messes. This is in their robot modes. So that is one of the main gripes to be had with these new figures of the Seacons, is terrible joints that are designed to support weight. So getting all of his accessory pieces attached you can touch the cannons right here on the back. And then going by the product photos, you put the laser gun in one of Snaptrap's arms, and then you put the sword and the shield on his other arm. And then one thing you can do if you are inclined to do so is you can actually extend the laser guns if you want. The extended position, I believe, is designed for Piranacon, and then the non-extended position of the cannons is meant for Snaptrap, so that's what I'll be doing here. But yeah, there is Snaptrap with all of his accessory pieces combined. Going by the product photos I've seen on the internet, technically there's no place to attach the double barrel cannons that are Piranacon's feet. But one thing you can do is attach them here to the sides of the laser gun, but unfortunately the added weight of these two pieces to the laser gun is too much for the elbow joint in Piranacon to hold the weapons up. So just having a spot for them to be attached to as well. There's 2 5mm pegs here that are on rotating swivel joints here and Snaptrap shins, so you can attach them here if you desire to do so. So there is Snaptrap armored up with all of his accessory pieces. And overall, I really enjoy how this figure came out. I honestly did not think I was ever going to have the Seacons in my Transformers collection due to how expensive they are, but luckily for my birthday last month in July, I managed to get these guys for a good deal on eBay. But yeah, there is the Transformers Generation Select X Voyager class Snaptrap, a.k.a. Turtler figure, and if you can find him for a decent price, I do highly recommend you get it Snaptrap and add him to your Transformers collection. I just note that if you try and look for this figure on the internet, you have to search for him by his Takara Tomy name of Turtler. And of course, I almost forgot, before we wrap up the review, let's get it Snaptrap transformed into his combined mode and see what he looks like as Piranacon's torso. Alright, and so to end off the review on Snaptrap, here he is transformed into Piranacon's torso. again, I'm really enjoying that chrome silver used here on the two chest spikes. And then one gimmick that Piranacon possesses is that he has gills coming out of the side of his helmet, so you can either have them in a folded back position or you can have them rotated outward. And I just really enjoy the design I used here on Piranacon's combiner head, with those gills on the sides of his helmet and the dorsal fin on the top of the helmet. There, in my opinion, is no doubt that this is a combiner designed for Navy combat. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. One thing I forgot to point out when Snaptrap was in his turtle mode is that there are only 2 Decepticon symbols on the figure. One here on the chest armor for Piranacon, and then Snaptrap's own Decepticon symbol, which I showed off kind of in his robot mode, ends up here on the top of his turtle head. So this is basically the front side of Snaptrap is the back side of Piranacon and vice versa. So that's really fun to see that. But yeah, here is a Piranacon all set and ready to be combined with his limbs. You've got clearance for the arms and for the legs here on the bottom. And then of course you've got included with Snaptrap you got Abominus's 2 combiner feet, and then the pink toes, owed claws. They are separate pieces. They connect via these 5mm pegs here. So if you want to take the pink toe claws off, you can have those act as slash type weapons, and then you can give Piranacon more robotic looking all black combiner feet. And for the combiner feet themselves, there's 2 ratchet joints, one right here that allows you to move the joint backwards and forwards, but then there's also the ratchet joint that allows you to swivel it side to side. And like I showed with Snaptrap's own Snaptrap's own feet, the way these double jointed ratchets that make up Piranacon's ankles, they aren't designed to support weight. So if I apply pressure here and then swivel it around, if I apply pressure to the peg ever so slightly and try and move it around, as you can see, I'm uggling it ever so slightly, ugly as if it were a joystick. So yes, this is the main problem that collectors have had with Piranacon, is that these double ratchet joints in the ankles, they don't support weight. So that's a bit of a letdown. And then of course for Snaptrap's weapons, there are a grand total of not counting the 5mm peg used here for the main handle, there are 4 additional eggs on the rifle, 2 here on the front, 5mm peg here on top, and then another one here on the back. And then of course you've got a grand total of 10 5mm ports. They are all hexagon shaped, so you got 5 on one side and 5 on the other, so you can go crazy with how you attach additional weapons to build up this rifle for Piranacon. And then of course you've got Snaptrap's sword, which forms the centerpiece of Piranacon's trident, and the trident weapon is pretty enormous. So overall, I believe that, and especially for being a retool of Power of the Primes Hun-Gurrr, Snaptrap is a pretty impressive Voyager class Transformers figure. And the torso mode for Piranacon, I love how the colors are accurate to the G1 figure. And just overall, I enjoy how Takara Tomy was able to design these modern day figures of the Seacons. So thank you guys all so much. This has been part 1 of my 7-part review of Piranacon. This has been the team leader of the Seacons, Snaptrap, a.k.a. Turtler. I highly recommend you get this figure if you can. And of course, yes, for those of you who were aware, I will show it off. Unfortunately, one drawback to Snaptrap is that right here, Snaptrap's own individual robot mode head ends up on the bottom section of Piranacon's torso. So yeah, you can make as many jokes as you want about that design. But yes, overall, I do enjoy having this figure in my collection. So thank you guys all so much. I apologize for it being so long since I did my previous review, but thank you guys all so much. Stay tuned as we take a look at the Scourge of Cybertron 7C. Ease the Seacons who combine to form Piranacon. Thank you guys all so much, and until next time, you guys, transform and roll out. Goodbye, everyone. Ta-da.